Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Patricia Moody. She is a celebrant, a life tribute specialist, also a justice of the peace, and she is here to talk about TLC and memories. We'll learn all about it when we come back, so stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today, a first-timer on the show, her name is Patricia Moody, and she is here to talk about TLC and memories, sort of something to remember, quiet guidance throughout life's changing times, and that's in quotation, so it's sort of a mantra for you, I suspect,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So right off the bat, let's sort of paint a picture for people what TLC and memories is.
Well, my background has been several years as a funeral director. And in watching the families go through the motions of funeral services and memorializations for their loved ones, I saw an opening in the fact that many times families went through traditional services, but it did not address their grief and did not really sometimes even mention their loved one. Traditional things that come out of the books and the ceremonies don't always address the life that was lived.
Now, traditional can mean religious and also secular, right?
Absolutely, as well as the families who, because they didn't feel they had a strong religious affiliation, felt they could not have a funeral or a memorial because they thought they needed to have a tight bond with an organization or a group, and you don't.
Yeah.
And so this came about. I actually found out about this work by taking some continuing education units, and this is a movement that comes out of Oklahoma City, brought here by a retired minister named Doug Manning, and they teach this. Mine happened to be a weekend course, but I've gone further with them. And you become a celebrant, and you learn how to work with the families to listen, write their loved one's life story, and present that as their services. And people come to our services and will say, I've never had such a good time. I didn't know that about Joe.
It's a celebration.
It is truly a celebration of their life.
And you know, and you said this comes out of Oklahoma City, and then after that point, you know, it hit closer to home. 9/11 occurred, even most recently Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut, that occurred, and that shows you even more so that, you know, something like this fills a void that was there before. Yeah, and you know, I commend him because he had been a minister for many years, and he's retired, and he realized he was, as in his words at one point, I was doing it all wrong. Prayers and comfort from the Bible help maybe later, initially to overcome the shock, to get through this period of time when you've gathered friends and family together. Let's celebrate. We all have wonderful memories about this person. Let's ease our hearts and our minds right now by sharing in those memories. And that's how we continue to live on, is in other people's hearts and memories. I think you mentioned there religion helps initially. I think it helps the people to sort of, it helps them to believe that the people that passed on are going to a better place. Correct. So that helps them with that. Correct. This helps more so with the more of a positive, a happier side where you celebrate the life of the individual. Exactly. And again, when you brought people together for such a thing, it gives everyone almost a common purpose at that moment. We want to think back to the times that we shared with this person. And there's been so many touching moments. There's been some hysterical moments. I mean, I tell people, if you don't laugh at my funeral, so help me, I'm going to come back somehow and give you all a hard time. But, you know, that's what we need to do, no matter how long the life, no matter how short the life,
So that's how this began for me. But what I've done is I've expanded that. Became a justice of the peace, and sometimes when people turn to a justice of the peace, they think it's going to be 5 minutes on the town hall steps.
And that's it.
Doesn't
In and out.
have to be.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be. And I sit and visit with my couples. I find out their life story, how they met, what it is in the other person that attracted them, what do they love about them, and even we get silly. What is it that you don't like about them, you know? And then I write their wedding ceremony, personalized to them. I don't ever use anything twice because no two people are the same. I may use a poem or I may use something like that, but the story that I write is theirs. No one else met the same way that couple did.
Right.
And so it's their story. And I also give these to the family because it's nice to look back a few days, weeks, or months later and be able to read it again. My husband has joked for years. We've been together 40 years, and he joked that the first 10 years of our marriage he wasn't too sure because he was so nervous that day he couldn't remember anything that Bruce said.
Right, right.
So, you know, we've had good times with that. So, again, I give them something tangible. You kind of have a folder there, something like what I give them.
Something for a funeral, something for a wedding, you know, cherished celebrants. Now, for marriage, for example, you know, a certificate and, you know, information. And this is all, you know,
that's just, you know, that is just a keepsake. That's not an official wedding, you know, marriage certificate.
Right.
But it marks their day. It makes it, again, a special token. And for a memorial or a life tribute, I give the family a copy of this, and they can go back and read it in the days to come. So, and it's an alternative to traditional services. It can be in conjunction with traditional services.
And that's what I want to talk to you about. This doesn't have to be in place of, you know, someone will think, well, if a person isn't very religious, then sure, this would work for them, whether it is a wedding or a funeral or any other celebration, but it can be alongside of a religious ceremony as well.
Exactly. Recently had a family, and mom was 101. And so what a long life to write about.
Wow.
And, yeah,
that's
101.
a thick book.
It was a thick book. It was, and it was great fun to write. But they were Catholic, and they asked the Catholic priest who had given her last rites, and she had lived last in his parish, to come and do the Catholic rite of you know, ceremony. And I was there then when he was finished, to then celebrate this person's life. We've done the traditional, and now we'll do this. And he had said at first, initially, well, I have an engagement, so I won't be able to stay. And I met him. I've met him before, and I said, that's okay, Father. That's wonderful. And I started to talk, and anyone who wants to speak, if there's family members who would like to get up and do a eulogy, I also act like as a master of ceremonies, and I guide them through this process. Find out what it is they're going to talk about so that it can be properly placed, so that it's a kind of a chronological story. So we're not talking about grandma, you know, in 1982 and then in 1941
you saw
and then
the first
in
automobile. And,
oh yeah, you know, it was so much fun. I mean, she was horse and wagons in muddy streets. So,
but the priest stayed.
He stayed. He sat down, and I'm kind of seeing him out of the corner of my eye. And afterwards, he said, I'm now late, but I couldn't go because it was intriguing to find out more about her.
Well, it sounds to me like not necessarily him per se, but maybe the clergy in general might be a little apprehensive about this, maybe because they just don't understand it. But if they have the opportunity to be able to observe and be a part of it, then they may really change their attitude about it.
And it's the same for funeral directors.
Yeah.
It's a hard recommendation sometimes for a funeral director because as funeral directors, and I worked in that field for quite a few years, you don't want to take too many chances. You know, you want to do what's best for your family and be conservative if you can. I mean, a funeral director will do anything the family asks for, but the families don't know to ask for this.
So true.
As of yet. I've been doing this for 5 years, but it's in its infancy in this country. It's only been in this country about 12 years, I think Doug says.
By the way, I can hear in your disposition and your tone that you did, you know, you you have that very soft and not monotone, but also a funeral director you can see as a part of you because you.
Oh, thank you.
That sensitive voice where yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good word. Compassionate voice.
And you listen. You try and listen more than you speak
because people are very emotional.
They need to get out what they need to express, and it's so difficult making arrangements. It's the last thing anyone wants to do. So
especially during that time.
Oh, sure.
A lot of funeral places now recommend if you can, prearrange. That's great.
If you can.
Yeah.
It is not only check it off your own list and off your mind, but it's a gift to your family by being able to do that, because I think the saddest thing as a funeral director I've heard families say is, we never talked about this with mom or dad.
Because people don't want to discuss mortality.
So I don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And it leaves your loved ones at a true loss. It really does.
They may not be making the same decisions that they would make if they were in a different emotional state.
Possibly. Possibly. And the greatest fear is that people, in a financially kind of a depressed time right now, people want to be able to make not only good decisions, but good financial decisions, and it's always best to do that beforehand. So I've come around to funeral directors who have known me as a director, kind of started with them first, but getting the word out about celebrants as an alternative or, an adjunct to when a funeral director says to a family, do you have any religious affiliation? Do you have a minister, rabbi, priest, someone to call on? The majority of people are not participating in churches these days, unfortunately. And so many families are kind of left adrift at this time. And so it's one more thing that a director can offer.
Yeah, and so this goes beyond, you started out talking about funerals and weddings, but it goes even beyond that. Any kind of, celebrant in the word in and of itself, any kind of big birthday events that are coming up.
Exactly.
Somebody a baby may be coming into the world soon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Baby naming ceremonies. When I thought about all the events in a person's life that we could celebrate, and in these difficult times, I think we need to make a conscious effort to find things to bring us together, be a part of each other's lives, and celebrate. And if mom and dad are having a 50th wedding anniversary, let's put together their story at any kind of a dinner or reception, Let's read that to them and share with them. A lot of things have happened in 50 years. Tell them how much we appreciate them. Tell them how much they mean to us. Do the same for grandma and grandpa at their 90th or their 85th birthday, something like that, before we are in the funeral home, and we can't say those kind things to them.
Yeah.
Let them know how much they mean to us. Turn it around.
Absolutely, yeah. Young and old. I'm looking at this here, and I'm seeing, graduations, baby births, as well as the, the funerals and the weddings, and these are all. And like you said, it can be as happy at an event or as not somber, but just more traditional of an event, however you would like to have it.
Right. The message to the families and to anyone who wants to celebrate any of these events. People renewing their wedding vows. I have a friend who's a celebrant that was approached by a woman who had gone through a very nasty divorce, and she wanted to celebrate her new beginning with her friends and family surrounding her.
It's so funny you say that, because there's a joke that goes, not included on this list is like a divorce party. Or
Absolutely.
something like that. Unfortunately, it's become more popular than
Unfortunately,
ever.
But my role as a celebrant, anyone's role as a celebrant or as a life tribute professional, is to help people mark those times in their lives.
Any problem doing a same-sex kind of or alternative lifestyle celebration? No?
It is a celebration.
Yeah,
love is love. You don't pick who you love.
That's right. As we talk about, one of the things you had mentioned, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, was the traditional services, whether it's funeral, whether it's a wedding. A lot of times you'll experience it, but not necessarily remember it. And the keepsakes that they can walk away with after one of these events? You know, it is very traditional. It's on paper, it's in books, there's pictures, mementos. One thing I wanted to ask you, are you compatible with technology? I've seen at various funerals and weddings, you know, someone's iPad will scroll through with pictures, and there's the digital and the electronic and the technological aspect of it. You can deal with that too, right?
Somewhat.
Okay.
Somewhat, but I will.
It can be a part of it, though,
It
right?
can be a part of it, absolutely. And with the topic of, say, a funeral or a memorial, the funeral homes have gotten very big into this.
They have.
So they can
Technological.
have that, you know, working. And it can be, if it's a small presentation, it can be a part of the service. We can fit it in. So everyone can, I can, you know, kind of write the intro to this and explain, and then let people enjoy that, and then come back to this memorialization. I'll do whatever. I tell people if it's not illegal or immoral, you know, let's do it.
You know, the funeral industry in and of itself, from when you were doing it to now, that it's changed, hasn't it?
It's changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Personalization has gotten to be a very big thing. And the companies that deal with the hardware of a funeral, the caskets and things like that, the personalization they're talking about is on that piece.
Right.
And that's beautiful. I mean, some funeral
Sports
homes,
fans have
exactly. You know, you have logos. You can
Yeah.
have new corner pieces put in that are specific to that person's interests. Some are even doing laser engraving in the urns or in right on the casket foot panels, things like that. And that's wonderful. I've been to at graveside to do services, and it was a full burial, and there's a vault. And the whole vault lid had a beautiful picture of this person on it, their favorite saying. It was, you know, a couple of stanzas from a poem. It was beautiful. That comforted the family.
Yeah.
As people left, they went over, and it was a picture, a portrait of a person, a woman about this big. And it was oval, you know, in shape, and kind of faded out. It was done beautifully. I mean, the technology is out there.
It is.
And as people left the graveside, I mean, they truly said goodbye to her. People walked by that piece and touched that picture of her, you know. So there's so much innovation out there now.
You are, you know, a trained professional in the sense that I believe that you had talked about this before. Sometimes, especially when they're in an emotional state, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a funeral where they're very emotional, any event, a happy event in their life, but I think that you have to be able to have the ability to get out of them what they are not able to articulate in the type of celebration, event that they want.
Right, right. You listen. I listen to them, and almost sometimes you have to hear the things they're not saying. One family was very pained. There was separation. There were many, many years of unrest in the family. And in writing the story and doing the service, what a compliment. Said, you brought our family back together. I only wrote what the things were that they were saying and kind of what they weren't saying. That night when I met with the family beforehand, and I'll spend a couple of hours with the family or more, and they dumped a box of Mom's photographs. You know those photographs you ask your mom and your dad, please write on the back of this picture, because we don't know who it is.
When it is.
Right, please write on the back, and they never do. I don't. I have boxes. My daughter's going to have the same problem. But, you know, they dumped that out, and they started going through these pictures, and they began to reminisce. And I became, to them, invisible. They were focused on their own past. They were focused on their story. And I sat back and I listened and I made notes. And then when I did the service for them, and it was at one of their houses on a beautiful patio deck overlooking the Sound, which happened to be where this person lived, at sunset, and we lit candles. I'll put in ceremonies for them to be a part of it. Participation can be very important to people, to participate in some way and add to this time. And they lit candles at sunset. It was beautiful, and it was very, very cathartic for them. They said to me afterwards, "Where did you get that information?"
Yeah, you did a little research.
They didn't remember even saying these things, because they were talking amongst themselves.
Right. Now, for a memorial service, if someone has passed, obviously you do it when they passed, or when the family decides they want to have it. But a lot of these events, do they occur at a certain time of the year? Is it more so maybe in the spring or summer?
No.
Just because of the weather?
Not necessarily. But if the event is planned after the death or the passing, or I mean, especially with the idea of cremation, there is no hurry.
Right.
We're not looking at a 3-day window, which is typical for a full burial. They can do this on one woman. She was 100 years. She was 99 years and 11 months when she passed away. And so, or in 10 months. We waited 2 months. It was springtime. She loved her garden. We did her memorial service on her birthday in her garden.
Very nice.
Very small, intimate, just the family, on her 100th birthday. So there was no reason to hurry and do it. They picked a poignant time to do this.
You know, cremation has become more and more popular, partly maybe because of financial reasons, but also I think it's just more accepted in society. And in, like, for example, the Catholic religion allows it. They do
allow it now.
It was frowned upon, way back in the day, but now not so much.
Right.
So.
Well, they've understood that they have to come a little bit towards the people because the people were making these decisions. This movement came out of Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, where their cremation rates are 85 and 90%.
Is it a land issue? Is that the reason?
In the UK, it seemed to be. And they, again, the religious base, there are a lot of people who are, as they say over there, unchurched.
Right.
So that gave them, again, a way to deal with this time in their lives, in a loved one's life, and celebrate it, and give them some tradition and some, give them an event to mark this time, to step off on their grief journey, to begin their grief journey. A lot of people will say, I don't want anything. When I die, just nothing. I don't want calling hours. I don't want a funeral. I don't want anything. Just, as my father used to say, stick me in the ground and, be done with it. And I would look at him, and it was before I was in this field, because going into funeral service was a career change for me. And I would say to him, that's all well and good, Dad, but it's not for you.
It's for everyone else.
It's for us.
Do you agree, and this probably is from just your funeral training, but do you agree that for people, they kind of don't want to deal with it, and in a psychological sense, this is their way of sort of dealing with it and accepting it? Now, grief periods are different for different people.
Absolutely. There is no timeline for grief. The only thing is no one escapes it.
Right.
You can delay it, and a lot of psychologists will tell you that that has a big impact on a person's adult life, and you look at troublesome adult lives, and very often you can look back to the loss of an immediate family member in their youth. I used to work with the Cove Center for Grieving Children here in Connecticut, and it's wonderful because it helps children cope and evolve through the grief process with children their own age experiencing similar things, and it's great for parents because we don't know how to handle our grieving children. We're grieving ourselves.
Right.
And the statistics blew my mind back then. At any given point, there are upwards of 30,000 children in the state of Connecticut grieving the loss of an immediate family member.
Yeah, and that's a number that's far too high.
Right, but it's reality.
Yeah.
It's reality. And so, and if you have a child that's a kindergartner and then a junior high school and a high schooler, they're at a different point developmentally, they're each going to grieve differently. And a parent, let's say, who's grieving themselves, doesn't have the scope of knowledge to know what to do for each of these children. So, on how to help them handle it. So some avoided I don't want to put them through a funeral.
Right.
So it was a void there, and that's not always the best way to deal with these things. And again, if we can celebrate even a tragic death, still there was a life that existed before the tragedy.
Right. So let's celebrate that life.
The elephant in the room is that the person has gone, but the celebration has to be a conscious effort. Let's celebrate the good, because we've got plenty of heartache for the bad.
For people that want to learn more about TLC and Memories, how about some contact information, maybe an email or a phone number? What would you like to provide for them?
Anything. You can. I welcome people.
We're going to put the graphic up on the screen, too.
Okay, I welcome people who would like to call. I live right in Stonington. I'm happy to talk with people about this. And again, I want this to evolve. I began with the funerals and the weddings, but I would like it to evolve into people celebrating all kinds of things in their lives. There's enough heartache in the world. We need to make a conscious effort to be happy.
All right. Info is on the screen. Patricia Moody, thank you so much for being on the show today. We appreciate learning something new and something new, and like you said, a void that has been filled by you and a service like this. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We will see you next time. Take care.